transition is with us, and it's here to stay. Global economics, technological changes at the speed of light, and social values that are changing faster than any time in the past. To help guide you along your journey in this fast-changing life, the show with a purpose: to empower, to enlighten, to educate, and to entertain. The show that offers you a friend, a guide in the most transitional time in the history of the human race. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's your host, Steve Beaman.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to this edition of the Steve Beaman Show. I am Steve Beaman, your host, and it's my honor to be here with you today and have my co-host Carol Parisi join me behind the mics to share with you 1 hour of what we hope will be an uplifting time of empowerment and joy that we can learn together to build better lives. Because after all, we're out to empower you for success, and it's yours that we care about. Isn't that true, Carol?
Absolutely, Steve. Like you said, empower, equip, and just enable people with success principles and the 5 paths.
Absolutely. Emotional health, physical health, intellectual development, spiritual faith and power, and financial wealth as an outcome.
So you say financial wealth is the outcome of all of this.
It is. In fact, the problem is if you go out and seek money for money's sake, you'll be a miserable human being. What you have to do is get the other things lined up, and then money will be an outcome of that if that's part of what you want for your life's vision.
You know, money just makes you more of who and what you are.
Money can make you good. It can make you evil. It's all about who you are to begin with.
Exactly. Well, it makes you more of who you are. Have you ever noticed people that have inherited, crazy amounts of money?
I've known a lot of them.
And if they're benevolent and kind and productive, what does it do to them? Does it make them lazy and alcoholics?
Typical inheritance you'll find is that the first generation's pretty good. It's the second generation that suffers.
Okay, so
they become the ones who never understand work. They don't understand the price you have to pay. That first generation saw mom or dad go off to work. They get it.
They get the work
ethic. It's the grandkids that just have never seen it. They don't care. But this show today is very special because, folks, we're entering the spiritual path in our Master Your Mind segment. This is our 3-segment series on the spiritual path. That's going to be loads of fun.
Okay, wait a minute now. Are we going to be like talking religion?
They'll have to stick around and find out.
Oh, okay.
And then, of course, at the bottom of the hour, we have our R word. But we're going to open it up today with something we think is relevant for everybody in the here and now. And that's an article I wrote this week on redemption. It's
a great article, Steve. Are you gonna talk personally about redemption? You did in the article a little bit, and I think redemption is It's a cathartic thing.
Well, it's huge. And what I kind of got into in this article is the idea that in the Christian faith, we have redemption from our earthly sin through the cross. Many people accept that, as we do. But spiritual redemption is one thing. There is also individual personal redemption in which we must forgive ourselves at some point and learn to move beyond. I mean, think about it, Carol.
I unpack that because you just said something. You just, as a coach, most people, they'll forgive other people for their stuff, but they have the hardest time forgiving themselves for their stuff.
You bet. So here's the deal. I'm writing this article. I'm thinking about my life, and I'm thinking how many times in my life have been there detours and hiccups and bumps in the road and out-and-out crashes that I've caused. And I look and, 10 minutes later go, I wish I didn't do that, or I wish I hadn't have said that, or I wish I hadn't have thought that. We all do it. Raising kids with our spouses. Go.
Okay. I'm hearing you say this. Okay. Can I ask you a question? You're saying all this stuff. I wish I didn't do that. I wish I hadn't thought that. I wish I hadn't done that to this person. Do you think there's another redemptive quality to that if you allow it to be that? And I'm leading you somewhere.
There may be a humility that's inherent in accepting the responsibility for my own actions.
Oh, humility is a good thing. But what else is a humility? It's a learning process.
Absolutely.
There are no mistakes. There are only lessons in life. And you have to believe that things will teach you things either about yourself, about other people, sometimes things will bring you to your knees, and it makes the only way you could look is up to a creator and a God, which is intrinsically part of that spiritual path.
Absolutely. And so coming back to this a little bit, think about in your life today, right? And you're driving down the road and you have any number of times in your life you say, I wish I hadn't said it, thought it, or done it. The question is, are you able to then look in the mirror someday and go, but I can forgive myself for it? Yes, it was a horrible time. Again, in our marriages, with our children, with our business partners, I've had business failures. It's ugly. It's horrible. I had a marriage issue. It's horrible. It's ugly. You carry guilt with you saying, oh, if I had only done this, if I'd only done that. At what point can you look at yourself and go, you know what, given the information I had at the time I had that information, I didn't do so bad.
I think forgiving yourself and then also going and asking for forgiveness. I know sometimes I've been up to the eyeballs and stress, a million things going on. And my son was younger. Mommy, Michael, just blah, 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 blah. And it's like, he didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve that. And I have to look at a child and say, what am I teaching you? I am so sorry. Mommy was not behaving well.
I'll tell you a true story of my own life. Back in my early 20s, I'd gotten a job, and I was really glad to do this. It was part of restoration of my whole life. And another person had joined up with that company the same day. So he tried to be benevolent that night and invited me to go out with his friends. Well, I was still in the throes of a lot of messy stuff. So when we went out, and we're in Southern Ohio, we go to a bar, and everybody's drinking, having a good time except me. I'm wallowing in my own misery.
You're playing in your own head. What was renting the real estate in your head?
So at the end of that night, this guy looked at me and said, what is your problem? I mean, it was embarrassing to him. He'd taken me out and introduced me to his friends. The next morning when I woke up, I felt horrible about the way I behaved. So I went to his house and I knocked on the door and I said, my friend, I'm here to apologize.
See,
we've become the best of friends.
You know how huge that is, though? Do you know how many people know that? Here's a real head trip. I mean, I know this is kind of deep, but if first of all, you do something wrong to someone and you don't ask for their forgiveness and you don't forgive yourself, what are you doing to yourself?
Oh, it's a cancer on yourself. It's an absolute cancer. It will grow, it must metastasize.
Exactly.
It's a horrible thing.
It's bad for physiologically, psychologically, it's bad. It puts people in depression and despair. It's physiologically bad for your body. That's why you got to let stuff go,
when I wrote this article, and I wrote about all the 5 paths and how they relate to redemption, because to your point, Carol, it is unbelievable that people carry this kind of baggage around with them. And through that, they take their physical side down, their intellectual side, their spiritual side.
Their relationships, their other interpersonal relationships.
You got to forgive yourself. But, I want to go back to something. People say, why do we listen to the show? We talk about this a lot. What's the purpose of our show?
Right.
If nothing else today, if you can look in the mirror and say, you know what, there's been this nagging thing in my head. Maybe I need to rethink it and forgive myself. It's not easy to do, but boy, oh boy, will it free you up from a whole lot of strife and conflict.
Forgive yourself and also forgive others. I mean, seriously.
Hey, none of us are perfect, right?
None of us. And you know what? Okay, but this is going to get a little woohoo maybe, but forgiving others and then trying to bless them. And you know what? We do stuff to each other all the time. And like I said, nothing right, nothing wrong, lessons. You be smart, but you also have to forgive that person. It doesn't mean that you let that person do that stuff to you again either.
One of the things people find out is if I carry around anger and hatred because of something you did to me, I'm the one who hurts from it, not you.
Well,
I'm just letting it carry on and on and on.
Renting that real, they're for rent free. They're living
right.
in your soul rent free, man. That's so bad.
It's so true. And so I guess when I wrote the article and I think about redemption, and I think clearly in a spiritual sense of what redemption means in different faith systems, and I've written about that. But clearly, too, to me, is that you've got to be able to redeem yourself on earthly things that you do. You've got to be able to look at the mistakes you make, the bumps you have, the hiccups, the detours, and say, you know what? Doggone it. I'm human. I made a mistake. I forgive me.
And then I'll take it to another level. And I mean, you and I are both believers in Jesus Christ. And back in the day, one person did horrible things to me, besmirched me, said bad things. And there was a bigger project that I had to get done with some other people. And they're like, well, thus and such might be part of this. It's like, you know what? And it was right around Easter time. I said, I don't care what they did. They can't hurt me. I said, you know what? Look what they did to Christ. They accused an innocent man and hung him on a cross. If I can't forgive someone for their own ego being projected, for their own power, then I'm not who I say I am as a believer.
I had a discussion with a young person who said to me they'd gone through some really hard times and they held a grudge against the people who'd done that. And I said, was it any worse than Hitler did to the Jews? Was it any worse than Caesar did to the Christians? Was it any worse than any of this stuff? We are people. We are born into sin, at least in my worldview we are, and we bring that sin out, and we beat people down, and we say things we shouldn't say, we think things we shouldn't do, and we do things we shouldn't say. We have to learn that sometimes when we feel true remorse and true regret, we can be forgiven by ourselves. And then, of course, in the life after, we are forgiven by purification.
Well, and we have to be humble and ask for forgiveness from above and from
Humility
each other.
is something that comes hard, but boy, is it helpful. And in the rest of this show, we've got talks about responsibility. We got talks on the spiritual path coming up. We've got a lot of stuff that you can take home with you and incorporate into your life and bring you to a better place. Again, this show is all about empowering you for success on 5 paths, not 3, not 4, but 5 paths to a transformed life. So when we come right back, we're going to be talking about the spiritual paths. We're going to start with a very, very good view of why you need it in your life. This is the Steve Beaman Show, and I'm here with my co-host, Carol Parisi.
Hi friends, Carol Parisi here. If you're like me, you're always on the quest for improved sleep and more energy. I discovered the secret to getting this. It's tart cherries and their restorative powers. It's been found that tart cherry juice, like the Cherry Bundy brand, could help to relieve aches and pains, provide faster muscle recovery, and help you get a good night's sleep. The science shows that tart cherries and Cherry Bundy are rich in antioxidants that help reduce inflammation in the body. These antioxidants also work to reduce exercise-induced oxidative stress to help your body recover faster. Tart cherries also contain naturally occurring melatonin, known as a key ingredient to a good night's rest. To learn more about the science behind tart cherry juice, check out choosecherries.com. It's full of data from independent research studies. My favorite tart cherry juice brand is Cherry Bundy, which you can find at cherrybundy.com, spelled CHERIBUNDI.com. And tell them Steve and Carol sent you.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Steve Beaman Show. I am Steve Beaman here with my co-host, Carol Parisi, and we're now entering the Master Your Mind segment where we are talking about the spiritual path. We went through the intellectual path. We went through the physical path. Now we begin our three-part series on the spiritual path. So welcome to this one, and we'll expect mail to carol@stevebeaman.com when you have thoughts on this.
So, Steve, okay, so we're talking about the spiritual path. The R word is religion. I guess we're going into the religious realm right now.
Clearly not. We're going to leave that as far out as we leave politics. Religion is the context of a man-made faith, right? Well, I'm more interested in true faith, not man-made faith. But to that point, I've written, 130 articles on the spiritual path. I've looked into Judaism. I've looked into Islam. I've looked into Buddhism. I've looked into most of the isms. And I've written about, Christianity. I've written about a lot of these things. Clearly, and we want to have a disclaimer up front, both Carol and I share a devout faith that Jesus Christ is Lord. So that's important. And we're touching some really sensitive things here. So we want to get that out. Neither of us either are judging you in a negative way for what you do. Praying, yes. Loving, yes. But we want to talk about the need for a fulfilled spiritual path. Real quick, to kind of get this going. A couple weeks ago, I wrote an article, The Mind of an Olympian.
Yes, you did.
And in that, we talked about the fact that an Olympian mindset not just has their physical path in order, but they have their emotional path, their intellectual path, and indeed their spiritual path put together.
Yep.
From where else do you find purpose?
Oh, my gosh. From your creator. From I believe it's God. I believe
a higher power.
I like that higher power, infinite intelligence. I mean, and you were talking about all these other religions, which I find to be very intellectually interesting.
Yes.
I even enjoy the quote unquote New Age movement and a lot of their.
And I don't think we should hide from it. I think we should embrace knowledge, and learning is good. If our faith is true, it can withstand knowledge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that knowledge, you can see where you could actually understand life in many different ways, and not just from your own religious box. And I don't want to insult anybody that has that is religious.
Insult, but I'm also not going to hide from our faith. When you go down to the 5 paths, we know that we need to be intellectual. We need to have understanding. We need to have wisdom. We need to convert information to knowledge to wisdom. We know in the emotional path, we need to have empathy, and we need to be strong. We need to have a high adversity quotient. We know these things. In the physical path, it's real easy to say, I want to be healthy. I don't want to be overweight. I want to have these things. But in the spiritual path, We have to have that in order. We're not going to tell you what your path ought to be, but I will tell you that mine clearly comes from a faith and a hope that my salvation is perfected in my Lord. I hope when you look at yours, you find that much security and comfort.
Okay, here's one thing I know to be true. I know to be true. First of all, we are, our essence, our truth of who we are is a spiritual being. We are spirit beings. When this body, this body thing, this human flesh thing dies, it goes away. It all goes away. It becomes nothing, dust. But there is something that lives on in us eternally.
That is clearly our faith.
Well, it's our spirit, man.
It's our faith. And we share that. But I agree.
But you know what? A lot of the other, to be reconciled with your spirit. Now, we believe in the Holy Spirit that guides us. I mean, that's part of a Holy Trinity in the Christian faith. But our essence and our spirit of who we are, I mean, that is eternal. And that is what goes to, who knows? I mean, I believe in a heaven. I do believe in a heaven. But many of these other religions also believe in that spirit realm where your essence is not this. It's not the tangible, what we see.
Well, here you go, folks, on the Steve Beaman Show with Steve Beaman and Carol Parisi, and we are having a chat about this high-level view of why you need a spiritual path. Can life be fulfilled without it? Some people would say, I don't need that. I would say it's my life view. I get that. It's my worldview. But you're going to have a pretty hollow life if you don't acknowledge some greater power than you. I don't see how you don't do that. I know people who don't necessarily believe in Christianity, but they have a higher power they believe in.
How sad would it be when times are their hardest and you are it? I mean, and I totally believe in intrinsic personal accountability and responsibility, but there has to be more than this. I mean, it does give you a certain amount of hope to know that there's more than this out there. When you see like these people that are suffering in Louisiana from these floods.
Yeah.
They're helping each other, they're building hope with each other, but a lot of them, the churches are stepping up, and Franklin Graham is stepping up to help facilitate that. And that's a spiritual calling to do
It is
that.
absolutely there. And again, to give us purpose. When the 5 paths thing started, and Carol, I've shared with you, it was originally 4 legs to a stool. And I'm talking to my kids when they're sick. And I'm talking about their emotional path and how their physical path is now down because they're sick and they can understand it intellectually. But their spiritual path is where they derive hope, because there's hope for a better tomorrow. There's hope for redemption. There's hope for an ability to live to a higher purpose, to be better than ourselves. And that, to me, derives from a sound spiritual path.
Here's the thing. I know that when I was younger, I would pray in a 911 prayer. Oh, God, please don't let me get caught doing this. I am in trouble.
How many times have all of us done
right?
that?
No, really. I mean, God,
Please,
to
Lord,
me...
don't let my dad walk in right now.
My young, immature spiritual journey was like, oh, crap, I'm in trouble. God, can you bail me? Yeah, I mean, I know I did all this stupid stuff.
Right.
But something that's the best journey with God is just to every morning I wake up, I start the day and I finish the day with that spiritual path. I'm grateful for everything I am blessed with. I am grateful for health. I am grateful for family members, for food on the table, a roof over my head.
Now, some people would say you're being grateful is from your emotional path. And I don't disagree. These things are closely aligned.
Oh, your emotional path and your spiritual path. But you wrote in your article too that there's a disconnect between them too.
Absolutely. People oftentimes confuse their emotional forgiveness with a spiritual purpose and all these things. These are...
Oh, go deeper into that. Say that again. I want to understand.
If we conceptualize our spiritual path as that which gives us purpose,
yes.
kind of in that broad sense.
Yes.
If the emotional path is that which gives us meaning in a sense of empathy and ability to relate to others, when you put those together, it's a very powerful thing. Mm-hmm. But it's oftentimes a question of where an issue falls. Is this a spiritual issue, or is it just my emotions reaching out? How many times do we just feel bad about something?
See,
and it's
I
not
think
really
God,
a spiritual issue.
Oh my gosh. I think God uses our emotions to action.
I do too.
I think God, that we are intrinsically created with emotions.
But Carol, I think we oftentimes use them as excuses.
I think there are times that women, take me the right way. I'm a woman, and
I
it's
didn't
like
say it.
I did say it, and I don't do this, but I know how to manipulate my husband. Oh, don't cry, because guys can't handle that. I don't cry. I yell, I scream, I hit the table, I get mad. I don't cry. I'm not
Scaring me.
I cry when I'm emotional, though, when I see things that move me or somebody.
Well, emotion, nobody denies the power of emotion, right? But I think we need to look at our spiritual path and find purpose and meaning there in a deeper, more, not intellectual, because intellectual plays into it too, but an understanding of what a purpose really is. And again, folks, if you're just joining us here on the Steve Beaman Show, I am Steve Beaman with my co-host Carol Parisi, and we're wrestling to bring to you this path. There are 5 paths we talk about: intellectual, emotional, spiritual, physical, and financial. This is a spiritual discussion, and it's not easy because we know this can be so different to so many people on so many levels that we want to be honest, but we also want to be open-minded to not offend irrationally other people.
Well, you know what? I'm going to say something, too, because you just said the
And it's
intellectual.
not politically correct.
I'm
it's
not a
like that.
politically
No.
correct person anyway. I'm going to say something to you. You said something about the intellectual. And you also have to think, because sometimes, and please take me the right way, some people are so spiritually minded that you're no earthly good here. You can't be in the clouds all the time and do work that has to be done. So what do you think of that one?
Well, again, I go back to my worldview, and in the Christian faith, we are to live each and every day for the Scriptures and for Jesus Christ. It's not always easy to do.
You do it unto the Lord with excellence, but you got to do it. Doesn't mean you just sit there and
that's
put
the
yourself
point,
in
right.
a cave and pray
I get
all
the
day.
old thing about, I prayed for success. Well, prayer for succeeding with no effort isn't going to get you there.
You know who my favorite is Solomon. What did he pray for? He prayed for wisdom.
And that's necessary.
And that's what this show is. It's that wisdom, that equipment to help create that.
It's information to knowledge to wisdom.
Right.
And in the spiritual path for purpose and meaning to your life, the next 2 sessions, we're going to be talking about it with you. And we're going to get deep into this because you know what? A holistic, healthy, happy life geared towards success is balanced on all 5 of these paths. So when you come with us a little bit later, we've got the R word and the Master Your Money. We're going to be talking about an R word there too. So we got a lot of good stuff ahead for you. We'll see you right back here on The Steve Beaman Show. A funny thing happened over the past years. Responsibility for retirement got shoved onto your back. IRAs, KIOs, 401ks, and all the other alphabet soup of investment options were thrown to you with the happy statement, you're now in charge of your own retirement. The problem is, money doesn't come with an instruction book. Well, here's the instruction book with no biases, no conflicts of interest, a pure purpose to promote and provide financial education. Welcome to the Society to Advance Financial Education, a 501c3 not-for-profit organization created and sustained to help you, real people in the real world. When you need a friend in finance, someone to explain things and make them understandable to you, you need SAFE. We have spoken to hundreds, thousands of people in transition, men and women dealing with retirement, college planning, divorce, death, transitions of all kinds, and we are there to help. Visit safefinancial.org on the web and become a member. Let our educational tools help you. Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Steve Beaman Show. I'm Steve Beaman, your host, here with my lovely host, Carol Parisi, and we are down at that wonderful time in the show. We are sponsored here. Carol just reminded me we're sponsored by our friends at Cherry Bundy. Thank you, Carol. They're wonderful folks who provide us our tart cherry juice to keep us energized. But we're down at that time in the show when we talk about our word of the week. And this derived from Carol originally, who showed me a notebook that had words literally for the alphabet going down for years to come. And we thought, what a cool thing to be able to bring that knowledge, information, knowledge to wisdom to you. So, Carol, this is our R word.
Okay, this is kind of a tough word. This is kind of a tough week. We're not.
We're deep into it.
Yeah, we're not milking this thing. This is heavy meat. But this week's word is responsibility.
Oh, you mean like I have a responsibility for my own life?
Like, yeah.
And I have a responsibility for my own actions?
I hope so.
And I have a responsibility for my own outcomes?
Pretty much.
And I need redemption because sometimes I take that responsibility and mess it up.
Absolutely. But that's always a learning opportunity. Yeah, Steve, responsibility.
Oh, my gosh. Does that not tie to the core of the 5 paths? It's all about, it's our life. You look in the mirror, you're the driver of that bus. It's your life. I take responsibility for my success and my failure with equal vim and vigor because I chose it.
But it's really easy to pass the blame. It is so easy to pass the blame. I know sometimes I'm mad at my husband and I do something and somewhere in my brain, I have to create this reason. It's if he didn't do this on this day and this hour, blah, 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 it's his fault. Then when I really look at what it is, it's like, I'm the one who goofed
and
up.
And that's where you get to that spiritual issue again, because when you do that deep inside yourself, oh, I actually kind of did that.
Right. Well, then that's where, there's nothing wrong with the sting of self-judgment. That's a beautiful thing.
Carol,
that's an
I'm going to go
awakening.
into my lecturing series here because
here we
this
go.
day, and folks, if you listen to Ken Severa just before us, you heard me talking about some things as well. Okay, let's talk responsibility. It's your life. Quit blaming others for not having what you want. We live in a world today
It's the government's fault.
It tells you every day you live in a conspiracy that's against you. You can't succeed. The banks are against you. This against you. That's against you. Malarkey. You're against yourself. Period. End of discussion. You're your own competition.
How can you say that? How can you say? Now, I'm going to take the counterpoint to this, Steve,
Absolutely. Fire away on me.
Because something?
This is counterpoint from Crossfire, right?
Government regulations, which is another R word, which
they throw up walls that make it harder to do it, I concede.
How can anybody start a business anymore in this day and age and be successful with all the regulations and that big arm of the government and then taxes? I'm taxed to Jesus. I can't even live in a house anymore because every year I'm paying 1/10 of my house.
Taxes in 1950 topped out at 90%. Okay? People still started businesses. Now, yes, government's a problem. I don't dispute that. Government creates barriers to people starting businesses. It's why we preach about let's get government out of it and get responsibility back. I mean,
Yes.
And I'd love to talk to the Bernie Sanders people about that and the Hillary Clinton supporters because I've been an entrepreneur all my life. I know what government does to stifle business. George McGovern, former presidential candidate, having gone out of business because of government regulation, said, if I knew then what I know now. So, okay, I get there are barriers. But, folks, I will tell you, unless you're willing to take the responsibility to say, I will make this happen, you might have to live a little less well off. You might have to suffer a little bit the consequence of that decision and ride the roller coaster ride.
Now you're not feeding the ego. You may have to get up earlier, get out of that nice warm bed. So personal responsibility is a big deal. It's huge.
In my early life, I sold pots and pans. Okay. Yep. It's a very difficult thing to do. I was a teenage kid, but I made good money.
Door to door,
man. The guy I worked for said many things that stuck in my head. And one of them that relates to what you just said is you can feed your family or you can feed your ego, but you usually can't feed both. And how true that is. And when it comes to personal responsibility, the ego wants to drive us instead of the reality and say, hey, if you blame everybody else, you look good. Look, I've had companies go out of business. I had a marriage that failed. I've had issues in my life. I was bankrupt when I was 23 years old. I've been through stuff. Guess what? I made it happen.
But you know something? You've also learned from each of those. You took the responsibility. The buck stops here. Hey, listen, I was broke, busted, and disgusted. Totally bankrupt. I was 23 years old. Stupid, my own fault, okay? I could blame it on the boyfriend that liked to go shopping, but I allowed him to use my credit cards. After that, I met someone just very similar to you who was a lot older than I was and said, you know something? You're smart. Start your own business. That mentor, that coach, taught me personal responsibility that, you know what, if you work hard and you do the right thing with the right reasons and don't give up, that tenacity and that resolve, which is another
R word I'd like to throw out because it's a word I wholly reject. Victim. I will not be a victim. Or as it was the Three Stooges said, I won't be a victim of circumstance.
But you know what? And
I'm trying to make a little levity here because we're deep into the woods here.
We're almost done here. But what about situations, extraneous situations like weather and stuff?
There's clearly stuff happens. I can't go through life, and if I get cancer, I have a problem that that derails a path. But I would still tell you that you're still in charge of your life. How you deal with that, it's Chuck Swindoll, right? You're
responsible for your thoughts, your attitudes, and your
10% of
emotions.
life is what's done to me. 90% is how I respond to it. So if there's one thing to walk away from right now, you're not a victim. You're driving the bus of your own destiny.
Be the victor.
So come back, join us for the Master Your Money segment in just a minute, where we're going to talk about, let's see, how about real estate investment trust on this, the R word, on the Steve Beaman Show. We just finished tax time, and I know, like me, many of you are thinking, wow, this gets more complicated every year. I'm Steve Beaman, and my friends at Greeby & Associates have been helping individuals and successful businesses for over 20 years. In construction, they say measure twice and cut once. In accounting, trust me, research and plan before you act. When you need powerful tax and accounting advice for you or for your business, contact Greeby & Associates at 630-653-3510. Visit Greeby & Associates.
Now, back to the Steve Beaman Show for insight on your money and the nation's financial future.
What a fabulous show we're enjoying here on the Steve Beaman Show. I am Steve Beaman with my host, Carol Parisi, and we now enter a segment that is about money, because money does matter on the 5 paths. We want to talk about our wonderful sponsors, the Society to Advance Financial Education, a not-for-profit organization devoted to being your friend in finance. And John Greeby, our friend who's an accountant out in the Wheaton area, at 630-653-3510. I think I remembered that number right. But check out stevebeaman.com and visit our sponsors who help make all this possible.
Steve, really quick, with SAFE. SAFE is your safe solution to financial questions.
It absolutely is. It's not an investment advisor. It's an educator. It's an institution geared to give you the information, knowledge, and wisdom you need to succeed.
You know, I will say something about SAFE. It promises and it over delivers. If you have financial questions, and they're not going to try and sell you anything. You're not going to be sold, KIOs and IRAs and all these other things. This is just a mission from Steve's heart that he created this and answered real questions from real people. And you could go to stevebeaman.com and take a look at SAFE. It's $5 a month to be a premier member.
We have a new site coming out at safefinancial.org. I'm real excited about it. We've got a new newsletter coming out. We've got really cool stuff.
Well, the introductory price is not going to last very long either, this $5 a month. So.
Well, it's not really a price. It's a tax-deductible contribution.
Okay, because it's a 501. Well, it's a 501c3.
Today,
right.
Carol, as we thought about it, it's the R week, and I thought about what is an investment topic that people are concerned about, that they kind of understand maybe, but they kind of don't. And that's called a R.E.I.T., a real estate investment trust. Now, you've done some real estate investing in your life, so you probably know about this.
Well, kind of, sort of, not as, I know real estate. I know tangible. Buy this property for X amount of dollars, have 10 people rent it out if it's a, apartment building, and you get your tax write-offs, and you're paying your principal down, and you could own property free and clear that give you a positive cash flow. Now, if you get a bunch of people, other investors, is that what this is?
Pretty much. It's that simple. It's an aggregated pool of money that goes out into the real estate industry and makes a play. It may be owning properties.
Not individual people. It's not.
No,
it's not
these are typically publicly traded. You can go out to the New York Stock Exchange. You can buy these through exchange traded funds. You can buy them in mutual funds. You can buy them individually. But the idea is that you're going to make a determinant play in the markets. For example, you can have a REIT that buys buildings and rents them out. You might have another REIT that buys leases from major companies. So they'll package up leases from Walgreens and CVS into a REIT. There's a lot of different ways that you can be engaged.
Keep going. That's pretty interesting. Now, what kind of investment does one need to participate in this?
In terms of dollars?
Yes, sir.
Not much at all, $100. I mean, you buy an ETF.
Really? So you could $100.
Yeah, you can go buy an ETF in this. And they have some of these have good returns. You can get 6, 7, 8% of your returns on these things. Interest.
Okay, now let me ask you something. How did that market crash, that real estate financial debacle crash affect this market?
Okay, some of them got cremated. If they were in residential housing, they got hurt.
Single family homes?
Yeah, but basically, some of them didn't. If you had a REIT at that time that was invested in triple net lease, or triple net leases from Walgreens and CVS and Kohl's department store, those didn't get hurt at all.
Steve, what's a triple net lease?
Okay, when a company goes, Walgreens doesn't own most of their buildings. They lease them.
Really? They don't own the property?
They don't. They lease them because they don't want to be in the real estate business. So they lease it, and those leases get packaged together as an aggregate bundle of investments.
Oh, okay.
There are a lot of companies that do that.
I thought McDonald's owns a lot of their
I think
property,
McDonald's
and that's
is
part of their
unique doing that.
prosperity
That's right.
package.
That's the old joke is McDonald's is in the real estate business. They use hamburgers to pay for it.
Okay.
But
All
a
right.
lot of companies don't do that. They want to focus on their business operations, so they lease the space they're in. And when that happens, you can invest in these. And again, they're generating 6, 7, 8% returns right now with pretty protected downside, even for
Well,
inflation.
that's what I was going to ask you now. As far as this volatility index, where do REITs fit in volatility of the market? I mean, would that be 'cause
Depending
real
on the
estate?
REIT you're looking at. Again, if you're in one of these triple net lease REITs, for example, they're going to be more stable because if inflation goes up, that's going to take the market down. The prices go up in these leases as inflation
I was
goes
going to say,
up.
inflation goes up. Doesn't that mean rental prices are going to go
Absolutely. And a
up?
lot of the leases have inflation kickers in them so that you've leased it for 5 years, but the lease goes up if inflation measured by whatever goes above a certain point. So these are legitimate investments. And they got a bad reputation in the late 90s because some of them got hurt and they were built wrong. But there are some of these that are actually very successful right now. And if you have questions, write me at steve@stevebeaman.com, and I'll do what I can to direct you into ideas you could look at. Again, I'm not an advisor. I'm doing it as education, so I can't make that play for you, but I can certainly educate you on where you might want to look.
$100, huh? I could invest $100.
You buy an ETF. They
Really?
trade like stocks.
Is it going to cost me money with that $100? Is there service fees?
No, it's an ETF. It's like buying a share of stock.
Wow. So anybody could really do this.
Absolutely. It's part of a portfolio. You can make an investment into real estate through that part of your portfolio. If you're in a 401k, you typically can do this either through an independent ETF or stock or through a mutual fund that might be available to you. So there are a lot of ways to make a play into real estate without actually tangibly owning the real estate.
And actually, somebody like me that likes real estate as an investment, this sounds like a safe way to get in the financial markets, the stock market, because it's something that's tangible that's there.
Safe is the scary word to me because
Okay.
they can go down. There's nothing guaranteeing the price won't go up and down. If you think about a basket of leases, they don't change month to month, right?
Right.
But the market does. Emotion carries prices up and carries prices down. Sometimes you can find really good values in these things because the emotion of the market is selling below the net asset value of the fund.
This is interesting. Well, if you have questions, contact Steve at stevebeaman.com because we're here to equip you for success.
We absolutely are, and we're going to do everything we can in all of our shows to give you, again, information, knowledge, and wisdom that you need to drive forward. It's been a really interesting ride so far, but when we come back, we've got even more. We have the challenge of the week here with Steve and Carol on The Steve Beaman Show.
Welcome back to the Steve Beaman Show. Steve, this has been another great show. Our letter is R, and we talked about redemption. We talked about responsibility. We talked about real estate investment
And we
trusts.
talked about the spiritual path. Boy, oh boy, isn't that just making me sweat. But okay, we got to do it because on the 5 paths, you can't avoid one of those or you're not going to live that holistic life that we talk about.
I love the 5 paths. What are they again, really quick?
As we equip you for success, the intellectual, emotional, physical, spiritual, and financial. Those 5 things firing on all cylinders, your life is going to be a success.
Wow. Yes, it's true.
So we did, but we had an interesting, deeper show. We started off, of course, talking about redemption. In fact, the challenge this week may very well be something related to redemption, isn't it, Carol?
I like that. I do like that.
So what should we challenge people with this week?
I think, well, here's what I think. You should take a 2-pronged approach. First of all, forgive yourself. Ask for forgiveness for yourself. And then if there's somebody you need to forgive, just let it go and forgive them.
Okay, so our challenge is for you, listening to us right now today, pick one person in your life who's wronged you and forgive them.
And bless them.
Exactly. Wow, that's deep, but it's
deep,
necessary.
but it's so good. You know what?
It does. It feels so good when you do it.
The universe, and I believe in God, the creator of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but I could also say the universe, it blesses God when you do that because it's just so awesome.
Forgiveness is a universal good thing. So
It
let's
is.
be forgiving.
Absolutely.
Let's forgive somebody this week. And if it's you got to forgive, look in the mirror and say, you know what? Steve said I should forgive myself. So, okay, I will.
Well, forgive yourself and others.
Absolutely. Always
Good
be
thing,
forgiving.
good thing. So that's the redemption factor.
All right, so
for
we're
this
going to
week.
talk to you next week about whether or not you actually did that. And remember, we talked today about responsibility. Life is yours. You're the driver of that bus, no one else. Yes, there are roads, there are blocks in front of you and bumps and all these things that make you say no. But you know what, folks? If you wait till all the stoplights are green to leave your house, you'll never leave. Accept that you're going to have problems on the way. Just embrace them and embellish them and learn from them and go around them.
You know, responsibility is one of the master keys to all 5 paths.
Absolutely. It lives in all of it because you know what it says? This is my life, nobody else's. I've gone back to the Alan Page thing. How many times? The Purple People Eaters, when Alan Page becomes a lawyer and when asked why, he said, because life's a big buffet meal. I choose this and I choose this. I didn't like that so much, but it's ours. It's yours.
You're responsible for your own happiness.
Absolutely.
Don't ask someone to make you happy.
No one else will make you happy.
No.
No one else will make you successful. No one else will give you the life you want. You look in the mirror, and that person looking back at you is all you got. And I know it sounds trivial and it sounds trite, but it is so absolutely true.
It's deep. So we did this week's challenge. We talked about the R word. What else?
Well, we always want to say thanks once again to our sponsors, the Society to Advance Financial Education, Cherry Bundy, who gives us such wonderful product. And again, it's always open to you. If you write Carol@stevebeaman.com, you've got some coupons coming your way. And again, in the Master Your Money segment, we talked about real estate investment trusts and a way you can make real estate be a valuable part of your portfolio.
I think that's pretty cool. So next week we have the letter S.
Oh, and there's going to be 1,000 words on S on the spiritual path, but it's going to be a super show.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
I can't spell that well. I think it was last week I was saying it was QU.
Because we were talking about questions, and we were talking about quantitative easing and quality and quantity, and that's why the words were all QU.
Folks, you have to forgive me for that little slip of the brain. It happens sometimes.
Next week's going to be a super show. It's going to be great. I can't wait.
And we always want you to write us at Carol@stevebeaman.com or Steve@stevebeaman.com. Our goal is to reach out to you. Hey, if you joined our Facebook page, you'll see that we established a Chicago-based meetup group. If you want to meet your host directly and personally, join our meetup group. We'll come out and meet you at a Panera Bread or somewhere and have a coffee with you. Be our pleasure. We are, after all, out to empower you with the tools to build your success. So I want to say thanks to Jim Thompson, our producer, who works so very hard to make this show fire off each week. We also ask you to visit stevebeaman.com where the video's available. And you can watch Carol and I as we do our weekly sign-off because from our hearts to your hearts, this show is all about you. Thank you, my dear friends, for joining us. Godspeed to you for the week ahead. And we will see you in exactly 1 week.
See you next time.